Sir, you don't belong here. Get out of that seat now so our actual VIP can take her rightful place. The words sliced through the first-class cabin of Horizon Airlines Flight 2147 at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport, delivered with a venomous sneer by lead flight attendant Emily Sanders. Her voice, laced with barely concealed disdain, echoed in the plush, quiet cabin, drawing every pair of eyes to James Carter, a 45-year-old black man seated calmly in seat 1A. The command wasn't just a request. It was a public humiliation, a verbal whip cracking through the air, stripping away dignity in front of a dozen onlookers. The cabin, moments ago a haven of luxury with its soft leather seats and warm ambient lighting, now felt like a stage for an unfolding drama, charged with tension and unspoken judgment. Before we dive into this story of injustice and redemption, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments. If you're as outraged by this kind of prejudice as I am, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like to stand with us against unfair treatment. Now, let's unpack what happened on that fateful morning at O'Hare, when a routine flight turned into a battle for dignity that would shake an airline to its core. James Carter wasn't just any passenger. At 45, he was the founder and CEO of Innovate AI, a $3.2 billion tech company revolutionizing customer service through artificial intelligence designed to ensure fair treatment across all customers. His software was used by Fortune 500 companies to promote equity in interactions, a mission rooted in his own life experiences. Growing up in Baltimore's Sandtown-Winchester neighborhood, James had faced unfair treatment early and often, tailed in stores as a teen, overlooked for promotions in his early career, and questioned about his presence in spaces where his brilliance outshone the skepticism. At 12, he taught himself to code on a battered library computer, turning adversity into ambition. By 25, he'd built his first algorithm to promote fairness in hiring practices. Now, his company was a powerhouse, and he was en route to New York to deliver a keynote at the Global AI Ethics Summit. That morning, James had arrived at O'Hare 2 hours early, as was his habit. Security footage later showed him helping an elderly couple with their bags, chatting warmly with a barista at the airport cafe, and tipping generously. Small acts of kindness that defined his character. He'd chosen Horizon Airlines for its reputation as a premium carrier, where first-class tickets cost as much as a used car. Seat 1A, with its extra legroom and privacy, was perfect for finalizing his presentation as a Diamond Elite member. He'd booked it months in advance, confirming his reservation twice, settling into the seat. He adjusted his tablet, unaware that his presence was about to be challenged in the most degrading way. Emily Sanders, a 32-year-old flight attendant with 9 years at Horizon, prided herself on knowing the preferences of her regular first-class passengers. One of them was Catherine Reynolds, a 52-year-old white woman who boarded with an air of entitlement, her designer handbag gleaming under the cabin lights. Catherine, a hedge fund executive, flew the Chicago to New York route weekly and always demanded 1A, which she called her seat. She tipped generously, $50 here, $100 there, ensuring her demands were met. Emily, who relied on those tips to cover her student loans, had learned to cater to Catherine's whims without question. When Catherine boarded and saw James in 1A, her lips pursed. She muttered to Emily, just loud enough for nearby passengers to hear, "I always sit there. This is unacceptable." Emily approached James with a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sir, there's been a mix-up," she began, her tone polite but firm. "This seat is reserved for our top-tier VIPs. We need you to move." James looked up, his brow furrowing slightly. He'd heard this tone before, the polite veneer masking an assumption that he didn't belong. Calmly, he reached for his wallet and presented his Diamond Elite card alongside his boarding pass. "I'm a Diamond Elite member. he said evenly. This is my assigned seat. 1A. I booked it months ago. Emily's smile tightened, a flicker of surprise crossing her face before it hardened into resolve. I understand, sir, but this seat is typically for our preferred Diamond Elite members, like Ms. Reynolds, who's a frequent flyer with us. The implication was clear. James's status, no matter how legitimate, was less valid than Catherine's. Passengers nearby shifted uncomfortably. A businessman in 2B glanced up from his laptop, while a young woman in 3C, Sarah Thompson, discreetly angled her phone to record. Whispers rippled through the cabin. What's going on? Why's he being singled out? Catherine, standing in the aisle, tapped her watch theatrically. I have a critical meeting in Manhattan, she announced, her voice carrying rehearsed indignation. This delay is ridiculous. I need my seat. Her words, coupled with Emily's insistence, painted James as an intruder, an obstacle to be removed. The pressure was palpable, but James remained composed, his years of navigating prejudice anchoring him. I'm sorry, he said firmly, but this is my seat. I paid for it, and I need the space to work. I'm not moving. Emily's face flushed, her composure cracking. She glanced at Catherine, who nodded subtly, as if giving permission to escalate. Sir, please don't make this difficult, Emily said, her voice dropping to a near whisper, but loud enough for Sarah's phone to catch. We can find you another seat in a different section. The subtext was unmistakable. Not in first class. James shook his head, his tone unwavering. I selected this seat for a reason. I'm staying here. The situation teetered on the edge of civility. Emily stepped back, her heels clicking sharply as she retreated to the galley, where she conferred with cabin manager Michael Hayes. Michael, a 38-year-old veteran with a reputation for handling problem passengers, strode toward James with a confident smirk. Sir, he said, loud enough to ensure everyone heard. We need you to comply and move to accommodate our VIP. Let's not disrupt everyone's flight. His words carried a threat, implying James was the problem, not the system that favored Catherine's sense of entitlement. James met Michael's gaze, his expression calm, but his eyes burning with quiet resolve. I've shown my boarding pass and status, he said. There's no policy requiring me to give up my seat for someone else's preference. Michael's smirk faltered, unaccustomed to defiance delivered with such poise. Catherine, sensing the stalemate, leaned toward Emily, slipping a folded stack of bills into her pocket with practiced discretion. Thank you for handling this, she whispered, her voice just audible to Sarah's recording. First class should have standards. The cabin was now a pressure cooker. Passengers exchanged glances, some typing furiously on their phones, others watching with morbid curiosity. Sarah, a 29-year-old graphic designer, felt her heart race as she recorded, torn between fear of confrontation and growing anger at the injustice unfolding. Another passenger, an older man in 4A, muttered, "He shouldn't be here anyway." The comment stung, but James didn't flinch. He'd heard worse. Instead, he pulled out his phone, opened the camera app, and began recording. "I'm documenting this," he said calmly. "I'm being asked to leave my assigned seat for no valid reason." Michael's face darkened. "Recording isn't allowed," he snapped, reaching for James's phone but stopping short when James pulled it back. "There's no law against it unless it interferes with crew duties," James replied, his legal knowledge catching Michael off guard. The standoff was interrupted by the arrival of Captain David Lawson, a grizzled 55-year-old pilot whose presence signaled the situation had escalated beyond routine. "Sir," David said, his tone authoritative but weary, "my crew has the right to reassign seats for the comfort of all passengers. Move, or we'll call security." James's heart pounded, but his face remained a mask of composure. He thought of his father, a factory worker who'd told him, "Never let them steal your dignity, son." He thought of the countless others who'd faced similar humiliations without the resources to fight back. "Captain," he said, his voice steady, "I'm in my assigned seat with a valid ticket. Forcing me to move because another passenger wants it is unfair. I'm not going anywhere." The words landed like a gauntlet. David's jaw tightened, and Michael stepped forward, his voice low but menacing. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Catherine sighed dramatically, checking her watch again. "This is beyond absurd," she declared. "I'll miss my connection because of this nonsense." The irony of her complaint wasn't lost on Sarah, who kept recording, her hands trembling. The cabin was silent, save for the hum of the plane's engines, as every passenger waited for what would happen next, what none of them knew. Not Emily, Michael, David, or Catherine. Was that James Carter held more than a boarding pass? As a 20% shareholder in Horizon Airlines and the CEO of a company they desperately needed for a $60 million tech deal, he was about to turn this moment of humiliation into a reckoning. The stage was set for a confrontation that would expose deep-seated biases, topple careers, and force an industry to confront its flaws. But in that moment, as security officers' footsteps echoed down the jetway, James sat tall, his dignity intact, ready to fight for justice, not just for himself, but for everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. Captain David Lawson loomed over him, flanked by cabin manager Michael Hayes and lead flight attendant Emily Sanders, their faces a mix of authority and unease. "Sir," David said, his voice heavy with finality, "this is your last chance. Move to another seat, or we'll remove you from the flight." The word remove was a guillotine, meant to force compliance. Passengers watched, some with curiosity, others with discomfort. Sarah Thompson in 3C kept her phone recording, her hands trembling with anger and guilt for staying silent. James, his tablet still open to his presentation, met David's gaze. "Captain," he said calmly, "I've shown my Diamond Elite status and boarding pass for 1A. No policy requires me to give up my seat for someone else's preference." His words, steady and precise, challenged the crew's assumptions. David's eyes narrowed, unaccustomed to such composed defiance. Michael leaned in, his voice low and menacing. "You're causing a disturbance, sir. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice." The threat hung heavy, and passengers shifted, some typing on their phones, others whispering. A man in 2B muttered, "Just move already," while a woman in 4D whispered, "This isn't right." Catherine Reynolds, standing in the aisle, clutched her designer handbag and sighed dramatically. "I have a critical meeting in New York," she declared, her voice sharp. "This is costing me thousands. Get him out of my seat." Her words fueled the crew's resolve. Emily, glancing nervously at Catherine, nodded subtly as Catherine slipped another stack of bills into her pocket. "Thank you for fixing this," Catherine whispered, loud enough for Sarah's phone to catch. The bribe, blatant and transactional, turned the dispute into something sinister, a clear exchange of money for James's humiliation. Sarah's heart raced as she recorded, torn between fear of confrontation and a need to expose the injustice. She wanted to speak up but felt paralyzed, her phone her only weapon. Other passengers were divided. Some saw James as an obstacle, others as a victim. The woman in 4D shook her head, whispering, "They're wrong," while the man in 2B scoffed. "He's holding up the flight." James, sensing the cabin's tension, thought of his father's words. Never let them steal your dignity. He knew yielding would endorse a system that devalued him, but staying risked escalation. "I'm not causing a disturbance," he said, his voice firm. "I'm in my assigned seat. If you remove me, you'll need to justify targeting a paying customer." The word targeting struck a nerve. David's face twitched, a flicker of doubt breaking his stoic mask. "You're refusing to comply," he snapped. Turning to Michael, "Call security." Michael strode to the service phone, his movements sharp. Emily hovered near Catherine, her discomfort evident but her silence complicit. The cabin was a pressure cooker, every eye on James. He pulled out his phone, opened the camera, and began recording. "I'm documenting this," he said. "I'm being asked to leave my rightful seat for no reason." Michael's face darkened. "Recording isn't allowed," he barked, reaching for the phone but stopping when James pulled it back. "No law prohibits it unless it interferes with crew duties," James replied, his legal knowledge disarming Michael. The security officers arrived, 2 men, one stern-faced, the other visibly uneasy. The older one, Officer Daniels, spoke first. "Sir, gather your belongings and come with us." James looked at him, then at the crew. "I'd like the specific policy I'm violating," he said, his voice clear. "I'm in my assigned seat with a valid ticket. Why am I being removed?" Daniels hesitated. Glancing at his partner, David interjected. "You're creating a disturbance. That's grounds for removal." The word sounded hollow, and even David seemed to doubt it. Catherine, seizing the moment, chimed in. "This is costing me my meeting. Just get him off." Her entitlement pushed the officers to act. James's heart pounded, but his resolve held. He thought of his team at Innovate AI, his 20% stake in Horizon, the $60 million deal they needed from him. In this moment, he was just a man fighting to be seen as equal. "I'm complying," he said, standing slowly, his movements deliberate. "But let it be clear, I'm being removed for refusing to give up my rightful seat." He kept recording, capturing the crew's faces and Catherine's smug nod as he walked down the aisle, escorted by the officers. Sarah's camera followed, her eyes welling with tears. The woman in 4D whispered, "This is wrong." While the man in 2B nodded approvingly, Catherine settled into 1A, her handbag placed triumphantly beside her. Emily delivered her champagne, hands shaking, in the galley. Michael counted the $200 Catherine had given him, a small price for James's humiliation. None of them knew Sarah's video, already uploaded, was about to spark a firestorm that would unravel their careers and force Horizon to confront its deepest flaws. Within hours of James Carter's removal from Horizon Airlines Flight 2147, the footage had exploded across social media, racking up 5 million views under the hashtag Horizon Injustice. The clip, crystal clear and damning, showed the crew's aggressive demands, Catherine Reynolds's bribe, and James's dignified refusal to yield his rightful seat. Comments flooded in, ranging from outrage, "This is blatant unfair treatment," to calls for accountability, "Boycott Horizon." Major news outlets picked up the story, with headlines like, "Tech CEO humiliated on flight dominating feeds." By noon, the video had reached celebrities and activists, amplifying it to tens of millions. James, now in a private airport lounge, watched the numbers climb on his phone, his face a mask of resolve. He wasn't surprised by the public's reaction. He'd seen too many viral moments expose hidden biases. But this time, he held the power to turn exposure into action. James's first move was to text his COO, Elizabeth Harper. "They picked the wrong person to humiliate. Assemble the legal and PR teams now." Elizabeth, a sharp strategist who'd navigated corporate crises with James for a decade, responded instantly. On it. Legal's drafting a strategy. PR's monitoring sentiment. What's your play? James typed back. Emergency shareholder meeting. They need to feel this. As a 20% shareholder in Horizon Airlines and the CEO of Innovate AI, whose $60 million tech deal was critical to Horizon's modernization, James knew his leverage was immense. He wasn't just fighting for himself, but for every person who'd been dismissed or devalued. His legal team. Already reviewing airline policies. Flagged the crew's actions as potential violations of consumer protection laws. The PR team. Tracking the viral spread. Advised a measured public statement to keep pressure on Horizon. At Horizon's Dallas headquarters, CEO Robert Mitchell was in a boardroom reviewing quarterly projections when his phone buzzed with an urgent call from PR Director Laura Bennett. "Sir, we have a catastrophe unfolding," she said, her voice tight. "A video of a passenger being removed from Flight 2147 is going viral. It's bad. Really bad." Robert, initially dismissive, scoffed. "Passengers get removed all the time. Issue a standard apology." Laura's pause was heavy. "This isn't standard. The passenger is James Carter, CEO of Innovate AI. He's a Diamond Elite member, and the video shows our crew taking money from another passenger to force him out. Twitter's exploding, and our stock's down 12%. Robert's face drained of color. He knew James's name, not just as a tech titan, but as the linchpin of a deal Horizon desperately needed. "Get me the video," he snapped, watching the footage. Robert's stomach churned. James's calm refusal, the crew's escalating threats, and Catherine's blatant bribe were a PR nightmare. Worse. The video captured Michael Hayes' sneer, Emily Sanders' complicity, and Captain David Lawson's weak justification. "Who authorized this?" Robert demanded. Laura shook her head. "No one. The crew acted on their own, prioritizing a frequent flyer's tip over policy." Robert slammed his fist on the table. "And they targeted James Carter, the man who owns a fifth of our company?" Laura nodded grimly. "The manifest confirms it. He's already requested an emergency shareholder meeting." Robert's mind raced. A 20% stock dump could tank Horizon, and losing Innovate AI's deal would cripple their tech upgrades. He dialed James's number, hoping to contain the damage. James answered on the third ring, his voice cool and controlled. "Mr. Mitchell," he said, "I assume you've seen the video." Robert, sweat beading on his brow, launched into an apology. "Mr. Carter, I'm horrified by what happened. This doesn't reflect Horizon's values. Let's resolve this privately. Name your terms." James cut him off. "I'm not interested in private deals. Your crew's actions reflect a deeper problem in your company's culture. I'm calling a shareholder meeting to address it. Expect my team's formal notice." He hung up, leaving Robert staring at his phone. The boardroom silent. The executives around him exchanged panicked glances. "He could sink us," the CFO whispered. Robert nodded, his jaw tight. "Get the board on a call. Now." James's team moved with precision. Elizabeth coordinated with legal counsel to draft a shareholder motion demanding accountability, including the immediate termination of the involved crew and a review of Horizon's customer service practices. The PR team crafted a statement for James. "Today, I was removed from my assigned seat on Horizon Airlines for refusing to yield to another passenger's preference. This incident highlights a systemic issue of unfair treatment. As a shareholder, I'm committed to ensuring Horizon addresses this." Posted on Twitter. It garnered 1 million likes in an hour, further fueling the public's outrage. News anchors debated the incident, with some questioning Horizon's training and others praising James's composure. "This man didn't just stand his ground," one commentator said. "He's forcing an industry to reckon with itself." Back at Horizon, The social media team scrambled to contain the fallout. #Horizon. Injustice trended globally. With users sharing their own stories of mistreatment on flights, the stock plummeted 15% by mid-afternoon, wiping out millions in market value. Laura's team drafted a vague apology tweet, but Robert vetoed it. "It's too late for platitudes," he said. "We need to act decisively, or Carter will gut us." He called an emergency board meeting for the next morning. Knowing James's influence could sway other shareholders, the board, aware of the $60 million deal at stake, was already fracturing. Some urged settling with James. Others feared his demands would disrupt operations. Meanwhile, James met with his team in the lounge, laptops open, phones buzzing. Elizabeth showed him the latest metrics. The video had hit 10 million views, and Horizon's customer satisfaction scores were tanking. "They're bleeding," she said. "Your statement's driving the narrative. What's next?" James leaned back, his eyes steely. "We push for systemic change. Termination of the crew is step 1. Step 2 is mandatory training to root out bias, if they resist. We pull the deal and my shares." His legal counsel nodded. Citing precedent, airlines had settled similar cases for millions. "You've got them cornered," she said. James didn't smile. "This isn't about winning. It's about making sure no one else goes through this." As night fell, Horizon's board convened virtually, their faces grim on the Zoom grid. Robert presented the stakes: James's shares, the tech deal, and a PR disaster threatening bankruptcy. "We need to fire the crew and offer Carter a seat on the board," he urged. A board member balked. "Firing them violates union rules. We could face lawsuits." Another countered. "Losing Carter's deal and shares will kill us faster." The debate raged, but James's shadow loomed large. By midnight, they agreed to meet his demand for a shareholder meeting, hoping to salvage the partnership. Unbeknownst to them, James was already planning his next move, a transformation of Horizon's culture that would set a new standard for the industry. The following morning, in a sleek Dallas boardroom, James entered with his team: COO Elizabeth Harper, legal counsel Maria Chen, and PR director Jamal Wright. His presence commanding silence, still wearing the same suit from the flight, a subtle reminder of his humiliation. James faced the board, their faces a mix of apprehension and forced deference. The viral video, now at 15 million views, played on a massive screen, its damning clarity exposing the crew's actions and Catherine Reynolds' bribe. The room was heavy with the weight of Horizon's impending reckoning, and James held the gavel. James spoke first, his voice calm but unyielding. "Your crew targeted me for refusing to give up my rightful seat. This wasn't a mistake. It was a symptom of a culture that prioritizes certain passengers over others. As your largest shareholder, I have 2 demands: immediate termination of the involved crew, Emily Sanders, Michael Hayes, and Captain David Lawson, and a commitment to overhaul your practices. If you refuse, I'll withdraw my 20% stake and the $60 million tech deal." The board members shifted, some avoiding his gaze, others nodding grimly. CEO Robert Mitchell, his face pale, attempted conciliation. "Mr. Carter, we deeply regret this incident. Perhaps suspensions and retraining could suffice? These employees have years of service, and union rules complicate terminations." James's eyes narrowed. "This isn't negotiable. Accountability starts now, or Horizon faces the consequences." The boardroom tension was palpable. The CFO, Linda Torres, whispered to a colleague, "His shares could crash our stock. We're already down 18%. Another board member, a union advocate, countered, "Firing them could spark a labor dispute." But the video's evidence, Michael's sneer, Emily's acceptance of cash, David's weak justification was undeniable. Robert, sensing the board's fracture, called for a vote. After a heated debate, the majority sided with James, fearing financial ruin. Effective immediately, Robert announced. The involved employees are terminated. We'll begin a cultural review with your guidance. Mr. Carter. James nodded, his expression unchanged. Good. My team will provide a training framework by tomorrow. This is about more than one flight. It's about ensuring no passenger is ever devalued again. Meanwhile, in a Stark conference room 3 floors below, Emily, Michael, and David sat in uneasy silence. Summoned without explanation, the HR director, Karen Patel, entered with legal counsel and 2 security officers, their presence signaling severity. Your employment with Horizon is terminated effective immediately, Karen stated, placing 3 folders on the table. Your actions on Flight 2147 violated company policy and federal law by accepting bribes and targeting a passenger. Emily's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. Michael's face twisted in defiance. We were following procedure, he snapped. That passenger was disruptive. Karen turned her laptop, playing the viral video. The footage showed Michael's condescension, Emily's complicity, and Catherine's whispered standards as she handed over cash. The room fell silent. Emily broke first, tears streaming. I knew it was wrong, she admitted, her voice trembling. I took the money because I needed it for my loans. I'm so sorry. Michael, still defiant, scoffed. Catherine's a regular. She tips well. We were prioritizing a loyal customer. Karen's expression hardened. You prioritized a bribe over a passenger's rights. That passenger was James Carter, CEO of Innovate AI and a major shareholder. Your actions cost Horizon millions. David, the oldest at 55, closed his eyes, his weathered face aging further. I trusted my crew's judgment, he said weakly. I didn't see the full picture. Karen shook her head. You all failed in your duty to fairness. Collect your belongings. Security will escort you out. As the trio was led away, Emily's sobs echoed. Michael's protests grew quieter, and David walked in stunned silence. His 25-year career reduced to a single misjudgment. In the boardroom, James outlined his vision. Mandatory bias training for all 12,000 Horizon employees, developed by Innovate AI's behavioral psychologists and AI specialists. This isn't punishment, he said. It's prevention. Your culture must value every passenger equally. Robert nodded, his voice strained. We'll implement it immediately. What else do you need? James leaned forward. Independent auditors to verify changes, and I want Catherine Reynolds banned for life. The board agreed. Knowing resistance was futile. Catherine, contacted later, was informed of her ban. This is outrageous, she fumed, but her protests were drowned out by the public's outrage. With hashtag Horizon Injustice now trending worldwide, James's team worked swiftly. Elizabeth coordinated the training rollout, emphasizing real-world scenarios to confront unconscious bias. Jamal's PR team released a statement from James. Horizon's failure reflects a broader issue in customer service. As a shareholder, I'm committed to driving change. It garnered 2 million likes, with supporters praising his leadership and critics accusing him of overreach. News outlets ran round-the-clock coverage, interviewing passengers who'd faced similar treatment. I was asked to move on a flight because I didn't look first class. One woman shared. The narrative shifted from an isolated incident to a systemic flaw. With Horizon at its epicenter, Robert, under pressure, addressed employees via a company-wide email. Yesterday, we failed a passenger and our values. We're terminating those responsible and launching comprehensive training. This is a new chapter for Horizon. Employees whispered in break rooms, some defensive. We're not all like that. Others shaken, recognizing their own biases. The stock slid another 5%, but analysts noted James's involvement could stabilize it if reforms succeeded. Catherine, meanwhile, faced her own fallout. Her firm placed her on leave, citing conduct concerns. Social media branded her Airline Karen, her reputation in tatters. She sat alone, scrolling through comments calling her out, the weight of her actions sinking in. James, in the lounge, met Sarah Thompson, who'd followed him off the flight. I recorded everything, she said, handing over her unedited video. I couldn't stay silent. James thanked her, his voice warm. This will change things. Sarah, you did the right thing. Her footage, now the backbone of his case, was sent to his legal team, who prepared to leverage it in the shareholder meeting. James knew terminations and bans were only the start. He envisioned a horizon where fairness wasn't an afterthought but a foundation. As he boarded a private jet to Dallas, his mind was on the meeting ahead, where he'd push for a cultural overhaul that would ripple beyond one airline, setting a precedent for an industry long overdue for change. The next morning, in Horizon's boardroom, James presented his plan, a company-wide transformation anchored by Innovate AI's bias training program. This isn't about fixing one incident, he told the board, his voice steady but resolute. It's about ensuring every passenger, from baggage handlers to first class, is treated with equal respect. The board, chastened by the viral video's 20 million views and a 20% stock drop, approved his proposal unanimously. CEO Robert Mitchell committed to a 72-hour flight suspension to train all 12,000 employees, a move costing millions but signaling Horizon's dedication. James's vision was clear: dismantle the culture that allowed his humiliation and rebuild one rooted in fairness. The training, rolled out within days, was unlike any corporate program Horizon's staff had seen. Innovate AI's team, led by behavioral psychologists and AI specialists, designed immersive simulations forcing employees to confront their biases. In one scenario, participants played passengers facing unfair treatment, feeling the sting of being dismissed. Another used AI to analyze real-time decisions, highlighting how assumptions shaped outcomes. James attended several sessions, sharing his experience on Flight 2147. I was targeted for my appearance, he said, his words silencing a room of flight attendants. This isn't just about me. It's about the countless others who face this daily without a platform. His presence humanized the issue, turning skeptics into allies. Employees like gate agent Maria Lopez admitted, I've made snap judgments about passengers. This opened my eyes. Horizon's leadership, under Robert's direction, rewrote policies to prevent future incidents. New rules banned accepting tips for preferential treatment, mandated transparent seat assignment protocols, and protected whistleblowers reporting misconduct. Diversity hiring initiatives were launched, targeting underrepresented groups for roles from pilots to executives. Independent auditors, hired at James's insistence, monitored compliance, ensuring changes weren't cosmetic. Robert, addressing employees via video, acknowledged the challenge. This training will be uncomfortable, he said, but discomfort is where growth happens. We're rebuilding trust, starting now. Some employees resisted, grumbling about overreach, but most embraced the shift, recognizing the old culture's toxicity. Catherine Reynolds faced her own reckoning. Horizon's lifetime ban was just the start. Her firm, under pressure from clients, terminated her contract, citing reputational damage. Social media, still ablaze with #HorizonInjustice, branded her a symbol of entitlement. Colleagues distanced themselves, and her once-packed calendar emptied. In private. Catherine grappled with her actions, replaying the moment she bribed Emily Sanders. "I thought I was just getting what I deserved," she admitted to a friend, her voice cracking. The public shaming forced her to question her privilege, a painful but necessary awakening. She began researching bias, a tentative step toward understanding the harm she'd caused. James's influence extended beyond Horizon. His PR team, led by Jamal Wright, shared training modules with other airlines, sparking industry-wide discussions. Competitors like Delta and United reached out, exploring similar programs. News outlets praised James's leadership, with CNN calling him a catalyst for systemic change. Public sentiment shifted. Passengers reported friendlier service, with no visible hierarchy based on appearance. "I used to feel judged in first class," a frequent flyer told NBC. "Now, everyone's treated the same." Horizon's customer satisfaction scores climbed 10%, particularly among minority groups, a metric James monitored closely. "Numbers don't lie," he told Elizabeth Harper, "but they don't tell the whole story. We need lasting impact." The former crew members, Emily Sanders, Michael Hayes, and David Lawson, navigated their own fallout. Emily, consumed by guilt, applied for jobs but faced rejections tied to her viral infamy. "You're the flight attendant from that video, right?" one interviewer asked, ending the call abruptly. Michael, initially defiant, grew introspective after repeated denials, realizing his condescension had cost him everything. David, nearing retirement, was hit hardest, his 25-year career tarnished. "I failed as a leader," he told his wife, vowing to make amends. Their names, synonymous with the incident, barred them from aviation roles. But James's next move would offer a path forward. James pushed Horizon to adopt a second chance initiative. Inspired by his belief that accountability shouldn't mean permanent exile, the program, piloted through Innovate AI's foundation, offered training and mentorship to those who'd lost jobs due to bias-related incidents. Provided they committed to reform, Emily was the first to apply, writing a heartfelt letter to James. "I was wrong," she said. "I want to learn and do better." Michael followed, his application more reserved but sincere. David, too old to fly commercially, offered to mentor others, sharing his mistakes to prevent theirs. The program's rigor, intensive workshops, public apologies, and community service ensured accountability, not absolution. Horizon's transformation wasn't flawless. Some employees quit, unwilling to adapt, while others complied grudgingly, skeptical of woke mandates. Union leaders challenged the terminations, threatening lawsuits, but public support for James muted their leverage. Social media remained a battleground, with hashtag Horizon Injustice evolving into hashtag Horizon Reforms. Though critics accused James of exploiting the incident for power, he ignored the noise, focusing on metrics. Auditor reports showed 90% employee participation in training, with 80% reporting changed perspectives. "It's a start," James told his team. "But culture shifts take years, not months." Robert, under scrutiny, met privately with James. "You could have destroyed us," he said, his voice heavy. "Why push for reform instead?" James leaned back. "Punishment feels good but changes nothing. I want Horizon to be a model, not a martyr." Robert nodded, his respect evident. The board, once resistant, now saw James as a partner, not a threat. They extended his tech deal, tying it to reform milestones. Stock prices stabilized. Though recovery was slow, passengers noticed differences. Gate agents smiled more, flight attendants engaged equally, and disputes were handled transparently. "I had a seating issue," a traveler tweeted, "and Horizon fixed it without making me feel less than progress." James's personal toll was subtle but real. The public spotlight drained him, with every interview probing his pain. "How did it feel to be humiliated?" a reporter asked. James deflected, focusing on solutions, but privately. He leaned on Elizabeth, who reminded him, "You're carrying a movement. Let us carry you sometimes." He found solace in mentoring second-chance participants, seeing their growth mirror Horizon's. Emily's tearful thank you after her first session stayed with him. "You gave me hope," she said. James nodded, thinking of his father's lessons. Justice wasn't about vengeance, but about building something better. As weeks turned to months, Horizon emerged as an industry leader in equity. Other airlines adopted similar training. Citing Horizon's success, James's foundation expanded Second Chance, drawing applicants nationwide. Catherine, still ostracized, enrolled anonymously, her journey just beginning. The transformation was imperfect. Some employees reverted to old habits, and public skepticism lingered. But the momentum was undeniable. James, preparing for his next keynote, reflected on the fight. "We're not done," he told his team, "but we've shown change is possible." His focus now was scaling the model, ensuring no one else would be told they didn't belong. 6 months after his humiliating removal from Horizon Airlines Flight 2147, James stood at a press conference in Atlanta, announcing the New Horizons initiative through his Innovate AI Foundation. The program expanded the Second Chance pilot, offering rehabilitation and job placement for those who'd lost careers due to bias-related incidents, provided they completed rigorous training. "Accountability doesn't mean permanent exile," James told the crowd, his voice steady. "It means earning redemption through action." The initiative aimed to transform not just individuals, but entire industries, setting a new standard for fairness. Horizon, now a case study in reform, was thriving, and James's vision was becoming a blueprint for change. Horizon's transformation was measurable. Independent auditors reported a 15% increase in customer satisfaction across all demographics, with minority passengers rating service equal to or better than others. A first in the industry. Employee morale hit an all-time high, with 85% reporting pride in Horizon's new culture. Stock prices, once down 20%, had climbed back, surpassing pre-incident levels. Passengers noticed the shift. "I used to feel invisible as a black flyer." One tweeted, "Now, Horizon's crew treats everyone like royalty." James monitored these metrics closely, but his focus was deeper, ensuring the changes were permanent. He met weekly with Horizon's CEO, Robert Mitchell, to review auditor reports and refine training. "This isn't a one and done," James said. "It's a commitment to constant growth." The New Horizons program became James's passion. Its first cohort included Emily Sanders, Michael Hayes, and David Lawson, the former crew members whose actions had sparked the crisis. Emily, humbled by her fall, threw herself into the program's demands, workshops on unconscious bias, public apologies, and community service at shelters serving marginalized groups. "I was part of the problem," she admitted in a session, tears in her eyes. "I want to be part of the solution." She earned a certificate and landed a ground crew job at a regional airline. A humbling restart, but a second chance she embraced. Michael, initially resistant, faced his biases in group discussions. "I thought I was just doing my job," he said, "but I judged Carter before he spoke." His sincerity earned him a baggage-handling role, a step toward rebuilding his career. David, too old to fly, found purpose mentoring others. "I failed that day," he told trainees. "Don't make my mistake. See people, not stereotypes." Catherine Reynolds, once airline Karen, joined New Horizons anonymously, her reputation in ruins. Her termination and social exile forced introspection. "I acted like I owned that plane," she confessed in a private session, her voice shaky. "I didn't see Carter as a person, just an obstacle." The program's intensity, role-playing as a marginalized passenger, studying systemic inequities, challenged her worldview. She began volunteering at a community center, a small step toward atonement. Her journey wasn't complete, but James saw potential. "Change is hard," he told his team, "but it's possible when people face their truths." New Horizons grew, with applications from across industries, proving its model could scale beyond aviation. Horizons reforms inspired competitors. Delta and American Airlines adopted similar training, citing Horizons' success. Industry conferences invited James to speak, his keynote now titled Equity in Action. He shared data. Horizons training reduced bias-related complaints by 70%. "This isn't about perfection," he told audiences. "It's about progress." His foundation partnered with regulators to draft guidelines for fair passenger treatment, influencing policy. Social media, once a battleground with hashtag Horizon Injustice, now buzzed with hashtag New Horizons, celebrating stories of transformed employees and passengers. Horizon's different now. A flyer posted, "They listen, no matter who you are." Robert Mitchell, transformed by the crisis, became an ally. In a private meeting, he thanked James. "You could have sunk us," he said. "Instead, you rebuilt us." James nodded. "Destruction's easy. Building takes courage." Their partnership deepened. With Innovate AI's tech deal expanded to include AI-driven bias detection for Horizons operations, Robert faced his own reckoning, admitting he'd ignored cultural red flags for years. "I thought profit was enough," he said. "You showed me it's not." He championed diversity, hiring 30% more minority leaders and creating a passenger advisory board to ensure accountability. Critics still lingered, accusing Horizon of performative change, but data silenced them. Complaints dropped. Loyalty soared. The former crew members' journeys were rocky but transformative. Emily, now a gate agent, wrote James a letter. "You gave me a chance I didn't deserve. I'm better for it." Michael, working long shifts, found humility. "I'm not the guy I was." He told a coworker, David's mentorship became his redemption, guiding dozens through New Horizons. "Every story I tell," he said, "saves someone from my mistake." Their certificates didn't erase their past but proved their growth, earning cautious trust from new employers. James, reviewing their progress, felt a mix of pride and burden. "We're giving them what I didn't get that day," he told Elizabeth Harper. "A chance to be seen." Public scrutiny weighed on James. Interviews probed his pain. How did it feel to be humiliated? Forcing him to relive the incident, he deflected, focusing on reform, but privately leaned on Elizabeth. "This fight's bigger than me," he said. "But it's heavy." She nodded. "You're carrying a movement. We've got your back." His team expanded New Horizons, securing funding to train 1,000 participants yearly. Universities studied Horizons' turnaround, publishing case studies. James's keynote drew standing ovations, but he stayed grounded. "This isn't about applause," he told Jamal Wright. "It's about the next passenger who boards without fear." Horizons board, once skeptical, now saw James as a visionary. They offered him a seat, but he declined. "I'm more effective pushing from outside," he said. Instead, he secured a permanent role for auditors, ensuring accountability. Passenger feedback loops, another of his initiatives, gave travelers a voice, with complaints addressed within 24 hours. It's like they actually care now. A flyer told CBS, James's foundation grew, partnering with tech firms to adapt its model for retail and hospitality. If we can change an airline, he told his team, we can change anything. As the press conference ended, James took a call from Robert. Your program's working, Robert said. We're not perfect, but we're better. James smiled faintly. Better's the goal. Keep pushing. Hanging up. He thought of his father's words. Justice is building, not breaking. Horizon wasn't flawless. Some employees resisted, and public skepticism persisted. But it was a beacon of progress. Emily, Michael, and David were rebuilding their lives. Catherine was learning, and passengers felt seen. James, preparing for his next flight, knew the fight continued. No one should feel they don't belong, he told himself, vowing to scale new horizons until that truth was universal.